Income inequality, a measure of how unevenly income is distributed through a population, has long been associated with a host of health and social problems including mental health issues, lack of trust, higher rates of imprisonment and low rates of social mobility. It may also affect academic achievement through various routes. Each year, the UN publishes a report evaluating the gap between the latest climate pledges and the Paris Agreement's goals. It concludes that the world is falling short. This year's report finds that the updated pledges would probably result in a warming of around 2.7. One in three patients enter remission, but also made them more likely to vote for your least preferred political available alternative might also change your religious beliefs, or a treatment for lymphoma that brings how would you feel about a new therapy for your chronic pain, which although far more effective than any A new study found that while a beauty premium exists across professions, it's partially because attractive people develop distinct traits as a result of how the world responds to their attractiveness. They build a greater sense of power and have more opportunities to improve nonverbal communication skills throughout their lives. Residential density is related to children's motor skills, engagement in outdoor play, and organized sports. Finnish children living in the countryside spent more time outdoors and had better motor skills than their age peers in the metropolitan area. On the other hand, children living in the metropolitan area participated the most in organized sports.
We will feed the new information back to the company.
It's not easy to apportion blame when a marriage breaks up.
Key business partners are often intertwined in expense accounts.
Long thin wires have more resistance than short thick wires do.
Lots of people don't bother to go through a marriage ceremony these days.
Many students now see university as a stepping stone to a good job.
Mary felt happy when she learned the results of the election.
May the love of those around you help you through the days ahead. Meanwhile, universities have raised tuition every year.
Moving up the class ladder also brings unexpected costs.
During this time, my goals are going to be to talk about the phenomenon that we may share in part with other animals and our language, and that is emotion. And also talk about some new technology, brain imaging, functional magnetic imaging, and we try to answer some very old questions about how does motivation and emotion work. I'm going to put you with the scenario first, and some of you may be familiar with it. This was developed by Pavlov over a century ago. And in this scenario, the dog presented with the sound. The dog waits and then feeds food powder, and this happened repeatedly. Things starts to happen in the middle of the experiment there. Interesting things start to happen here. Pavlov's study was on the salivation of the dog. The salivation increases more time to paralyzes. But other things happen here too. You have a dog move around here more. All kinds of things are going on here. What we are trying to capture was the experiment going on to describe today what is going on in the brain to generate that state, which is called competitive state. But you can also think about state in terms of how the dog's feeling layer, how you are feeling about eating lunch today.
In 1943, what became known as the Green Revolution began when Mexico, unable to feed its growing population, shouted for help. Within a few years, the Ford and Rockefeller Foundations founded the International Rice Research Institute in Asia, and by 1962, a new strain of rice called IR-8 was feeding people all over the world. IR-8 was the first really big modified crop to make a real impact on world hunger. In 1962, the technology did not yet exist to directly manipulate the genes of plants, and so IR-8 was created by carefully crossing existing varieties, selecting the best from each generation, further modifying them, and finally finding the best. Here is the power of modified crops. IR-8, with no fertilizer, straight out of the box, produced 5 times the yield of traditional rice varieties. In optimal conditions with nitrogen, it produced 10 times the yield of traditional varieties. By 1980, IR-36 resisted pests and grew fast enough to allow 2 crops a year instead of just 1, doubling the yield. And by 1990, using more advanced genetic manipulation techniques, IR-72 was outperforming even IR-36. The Green Revolution saw worldwide crop yields explode from 1960 through 2000.
How often does a biennial convention take place? Which sense is related to your ears?
Why plants need bees?
If there are 8 white balls and 1 black ball, and I randomly pick one, which color is most likely to be picked?
What does the prefix, post, mean as in postgraduate?
We will feed the new information back to the company.
It's not easy to apportion blame when a marriage breaks up.
Key business partners are often intertwined in expense accounts.
Long thin wires have more resistance than short thick wires do.
Lots of people don't bother to go through a marriage ceremony these days.
Many students now see university as a stepping stone to a good job.
Mary felt happy when she learned the results of the election.
May the love of those around you help you through the days ahead.
Meanwhile, universities have raised tuition every year.
Moving up the class ladder also brings unexpected costs.